Welcome back. 15th ranked NC State and number 18 Syracuse squaring off in the Dome, and it is a matchup with March written all over it. The Orange own the series on the hardwood, but it's the Pack who have dominated on turf, which is where this game will be played. 13-2 all time, but the main reason it feels like a hoop showdown is the fact that this is the first time they'll play while both teams are ranked. So we're in new territory, and it calls for our best and brightest to break it all down. So let's welcome in Cory Smith from Pack Pride right here behind me, and right here in studio, James Finneral of Cuse Nation. So James, let's start here. Dave Doeren not giving up anything when it comes to the status of his quarterback, Devin Leary, saying it could be a week, could be 6 weeks. How big of a challenge is it for Syracuse to prepare for two very different quarterbacks?
Yeah, Emily, it's going to be a very interesting week of preparation for Syracuse because Dino Babers thinks that Devin Leary is going to find a way to be out there on Saturday. However, they have to prepare for both Leary and backup quarterback Jack Chambers. And this is a challenge not because it's two different quarterbacks, but it's two very different styles of quarterback. You look at a guy like Leary, he can challenge downfield, has a strong arm, and then Chambers, more of a dual threat guy, more likely to take off, probably see more RPOs there. So the challenge here is you have to have two completely different game plans for these two completely different quarterbacks, and that's going to take, I would say, a ton of extra preparation, but then also being prepared for when the starter is announced to be able to execute that game plan at a high level. So Syracuse, definitely a ton on their plate this week, and we will see who is going to be under center for NC State come Saturday.
Exactly why Dave Doeren is not giving up. Who's going to start? So Cory, what does this offense look like with versus without Leary?
Yeah, with Devin Leary, it hasn't quite lived up to expectations this year. You know, he's kind of gone a little under the radar so far this year compared to being the ACC Player of the Year in the preseason. But, you know, everything that we know about Devin Leary is that he's played well against Syracuse in the past. He had a really strong game last year, and I think this is a little more of a pass-heavy offense if he's in the system, whereas if you have Jack Chambers under center, I think it's going to be a little bit more of an RPO, a little bit more of a run game type of system. So I don't think you expect it to be as pass-heavy with him under center. Looking at what he's capable of doing, you know, at Charleston Southern, he was a really strong runner there. He was able to roll out of the pocket, so I think you'll see a little more RPO. The thing with him too is he came to NC State knowing that he wasn't going to compete for the starting role. He was going to be the backup. He came here as this break in case of emergency type of player, and I expect to see him, if he does play on Saturday, which I think is the expectation, to be, you know, ready for this moment as well.
Meanwhile, both of these teams are in the top 15 in scoring defense. So Cory, first, what has the recipe been for success for NC State on that side of the ball?
Yeah, it's interesting because both of these two teams actually play a 3-3-5, which is rare in college football. But, you know, the second part of that three is what's had a lot of success for NC State over the last several years. The linebackers with Peyton Wilson, Drake Thomas, and Isaiah Moore in the middle there. You know, those three have all been all ACC players in the past. They've all, you know, they're coming off of a game against Florida State where they had combined 34 tackles between the three of them. So they'll be, you know, the defensive line sets them up to be the pass rushers for this team. And I expect to see them play really strong. And that defensive backfield is also one that's very experienced, returned all the production from last year, and they've been very good so far this season. And majority of them should be healthy, especially if Tyler Baker-Williams is able to return at nickel.
I'm just going to have to echo what Cory said, but give the Syracuse version here. It all starts with the linebackers, looking specifically at the duo of Michael Jones and Marlowe Wax, two high-energy, high-IQ linebackers. Both have already earned ACC Linebacker of the Week honors so far this season. And then also I have to point out these two cornerbacks, Garrett Williams and Deuce Chestnut. They pride themselves on being shutdown corners, so I think it's going to be an interesting matchup, the NC State pass attack against those two corners, and specifically if Devin Leary is the quarterback. And I am curious to see which one of those corners will take on the challenge of covering Thayer Thomas for most of the game. So those are some key players on the Syracuse defense that I wanted to highlight. And yeah, two fierce units. It's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be some hard hits and some high-quality defense overall.
I'm excited about that. As we know, Cuse well-rested coming off that bye, while NC State, we mentioned Devin Leary, a little beat up to say the least, coming off those two tough conference matchups. So James, starting with you, what's the mentality of this team as they get ready to play in a top 20 divisional matchup.
Yeah, you say that, top 20 divisional matchup. I don't think there's been a top 20 matchup in the JMA, Carrier, Dome, since 1998, I believe. So needless to say, the crowd is going to be hyped up. I heard over 45,000 tickets sold so far. And yeah, even though they're coming off their bye week and then they played Wagner the week before that, I think Syracuse is going to be up for this game, especially because there is a ton on the line in the ACC. If Syracuse can already surpass its win total from last season with a win against NC State this week, and then they will roll into Death Valley, undefeated 6-0 to face a Clemson team, which appears to be the class of the ACC. So needless to say, a huge week for Syracuse football.
Yeah, the mentality for NC State on the other side is going to be, all on the defense. I think obviously the offense, if Jack Chambers plays in this game, the expectation is for it to be a little more of a run-heavy team. So the defensive side of the football, they really are getting up for this game in particular. They see what Syracuse has done to this point in the season, one of the top offenses and one of the best defenses in the ACC, and one of the best defenses in the country. They want to be able to match that, and they know that a lot of this is going to be on their shoulders. You can't allow a Syracuse team to get up early. So the defensive mentality for this team is really what's going to be the one that kind of takes over this game for NC State.
All right, guys, thank you so much. Be sure to keep it locked in to Pack Pride and Cuse Nation for the latest on this game. And we're a little biased, but the best coverage of these two teams all season long. And don't forget, later in the show, we're picking this game with CBS Sportsline, so stay tuned.